So I want to talk about a few things that I've learned over the past 2 years of being a full-time freelance videographer. So the first one is that the best way to grow your reputation and your network is with free work. Think of it like a Costco sampler. Now, a lot of people have very strong opinions about free work, and what I'm not suggesting is that you go to somebody who's not even going to really appreciate it all that much and give them like your full-blown package. I feel like you can do that if it's for the right client, if it's someone you really do want to land and you feel like it'll work out well for you. Like, nothing's going to stop you from trying that. But if you were to go to someone and you offer them a free photo shoot or a free video shoot or a free logo design or whatever it is that you do it in a way that costs you as reasonably little time and effort needed, but something that you could still deliver that somebody's going to like. And if they don't have to pay for it, if there's no financial risk for them, there's really no expectation. You know, it can suck and it doesn't take a hit to your reputation. And if it's good, then they'll talk about you to other people. And that's a great way to grow your network. Referrals really, mouth to mouth. Word of mouth referrals may not be the most reliable form of lead generation, but it's the most powerful. You know, when someone is told by someone they know about this great product or service or this great freelancer who does amazing work, they'll take that a lot more seriously, and thus they'll take you a lot more seriously as well. But again, don't do too much. Just do enough that will make them happy, that will get your name out there, and that will get, at the very least, open up the conversation for what a paid project could look like. And if the small thing that you give away is actually really, really good, something that may occur to them in their heads is, hey, if this is so good, then I wonder what the paid version will be. And, you know, the price may or may not be right for them, but you've at least kind of teased something out and they have something that they can tell other people about. In my situation, I'm talking about in the context of freelance videography, which means that someone's going to talk about me as this guy who made this great video, who maybe offered some paid packages, but it was kind of out of our budget, but they're still aware of it and it's still something that they can recommend to their other business owner friends. Number 2 is always get 50% up front at least. This is just a pretty strong opinion from me in that you at least need half for new clients. And it's not just so that you can get a lot of money quickly. I mean, part of it, yeah, you do, like, it's nice to get that money early and you kind of have a little bit more motivation to do it because you're like, hey, I got this money now, I feel good. But there's also a subtle psychological thing about it when the client has to pay something up front, when they immediately have to give away something in order just to secure your spot. It does make them respect you a bit more, and they'll also take your professional opinions more seriously. I've noticed that, at least in the clients that I've worked with, the people who take me the most seriously and who trust my creative input the most are also, ironically, the people who pay me the most. People might think that with lower paying work that, you know, there's less pressure or the job's going to be easier, but often the reverse is true. There's been a general pattern in my work in that the clients who pay the least are also the ones who appreciate you the least, because your work is not worth that much to them. One time I had a client who I won't name here. We talked about a project and I got maybe like a 8% deposit. And because this client didn't put down very much, there wasn't much risk up front for them. And as other stuff came up for them that got in the way of the project, it got drug out and drug out and drug out, and it still hasn't happened. Maybe they lost that deposit, but it wasn't that much money to them. And so they didn't miss out on much. Had I taken a 50% deposit up front, I feel like this client would have cared more about the video getting finished. The idea of charging what you're worth, I feel like, is a complete bullshit idea that's perpetuated by a lot of these, you know, entrepreneur business guru coaches who are trying to sell you on their $10,000 program. But it's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot in like the freelancer or entrepreneurial world, I guess. And the thing I have a problem with is the idea of tying your worth as a human being to a dollar amount. So I like a subtle rephrasing of that, which is charge what the work is worth. And the implications of this mean that you're separating your own, I guess, humanity from the dollar amount that you make from whatever it is that you do. And it also frees you up to price projects accordingly. Like, for example, if a big company comes to contact you for photography or logo design or whatever, you can charge them a whole hell of a lot more than you would charge a small business. Number 4, mistakes are inevitable and do not necessarily go away when you get more experienced. You just make more subtle and more sophisticated mistakes. Number 5, you cannot serve every client equally. Each of your clients have their own individual problems that they're using your services to solve for them. And sometimes a different level of involvement or a different custom deliverable that solves the client's problem more accurately than whatever it is that's in your cookie cutter packages is ultimately going to make you more worthwhile for the client to work with. And what that looks like, at least for me in my freelance video work, is that for some clients, I'm just shooting and handing off the footage. For some clients, I'm shooting, taking the footage home, color correcting it, doing some work to the audio to make voices sound nice, and exporting lightweight files for them to send to their editors. For some clients, I'm doing the whole thing, the pre-production, the strategy, the filming, the editing, the distribution at the end of it. And it all depends on why the client comes to me in the first place. And that's one of the first things I want to get clear on with the clients, because their answer to that question is going to determine the nature of everything I do from that point forward. Number 6, it's your communication skills, not necessarily your technical or artistic skills, that are going to get you hired. Now, you do have to be good, like as an artist or a technician. You know, I believe that you should always be striving to get better at that. And that's because that's part of your creativity. That's part of what you bring to the table, because they don't have any of those skills. And typically the client already believes that you have all of that, or else they wouldn't have contacted you in the first place. But if you're able to speak to their unique problems and show them how you're going to do it for them, they're going to trust you. And that also just makes life easier for you, because not only are they probably not going to have a problem paying you, you know, they're not going to be difficult to work with creatively. They're going to take your creative and professional advice more seriously if they trust you. Otherwise, you're just some guy and that they feel like they have to kind of control with puppet strings because they're worried that you're going to screw it up. And the last one, number 7, it's very trite and very cliche, but it's true. And it's true because of those things, because so many people have said it over and over and over again. There must be some truth to it. You will figure out your approach as you go. So the nature of what I do has evolved a lot over the past 2 years. When I started, I was basically going in with my experience as a wedding videographer, and every video that I made for a business kind of followed a very similar formula. But that ended up not being, it wasn't very intuitive for them to work with. At a certain point, I kind of almost wanted to go down the full-on creative agency route where, you know, you were the one charging for the $20,000, $30,000 projects, but you're not necessarily involved on a technical or artistic level. And, you know, all this exploration is good. Doing something you don't like doing, it can be just as valuable as doing what you do like on the job, because it's going to help you get a more clear picture of what you actually want to do. The reason I say this is because learning by doing is a lot more effective and faster than learning by thinking. And you're not going to do it perfectly, but then again, no one's done it perfectly, ever. And planning extensively ahead of time and trying to find the most perfect way to do it without actually going out into the field and doing it, it may not be wrong, but it's just a lot slower. Even the imperfect projects have still done great things, and people have still gotten hired again, and they've refined their approach and got better. And they wouldn't have done that if they sat and planned extensively about it. And I'm saying this, it's also something I need to hear and I need to actually put into practice more and more, because I don't feel like I ever do enough of that. Basically, every creative project that's ever been done has imperfections in some way. There's always something you can learn. And so you don't have to be perfect to get hired. And you don't have to be perfect at what you do. And you don't even have to be perfect in your approach as a business person to provide value for your clients. I'm kind of playing off of something Rick Rubin said once, but the work will reveal itself in the process of creation, not in premeditation.